CSGO gambling. I think gambling is fine, but the only problem is when you have kids and
we shouldn't be promoting that kind of stuff to the younger generation.
When I started gambling, I was around 13 years old.
Apologize for me drinking throughout this. This is literally the only way I can actually handle doing 10 Dragon Lord trade-ups in a row.
In this video, I'm going to show you the dark reality behind virtual goods in video games. While each of these concepts are problematic in their own right, the last one that I'm going to talk about could be shocking to you, as there's actually only minor differences that set them apart from actual online casinos. To get deeper insights, I'm also going to be interviewing a fellow gambling addict who got hooked through video games and has lost a lot more than just money as a result of their gambling. Loot boxes alone generate billions of dollars every single year. Players can purchase virtual items that contain randomized rewards, such as skins, characters, or elements like players in FIFA, which can significantly improve your chances of winning matches. These microtransactions are a crucial part of the game's design, but the experience of opening loot crates is highly similar to gambling. For instance, the BBC reported a case where the teenager Jonathan Pennicut became addicted to opening loot boxes in FIFA Ultimate Team. His addiction began when he was only 13 years old. Over the next 5 years, he spent more than $3,000 chasing the big win. Jonathan himself stated that the rush of the chance of winning something valuable was what kept him hooked and kept him coming back for more. On the other side of this equation, EA denies that loot boxes are gambling. However, opening them with a low chance of receiving a rare or valuable in-game item can trigger the release of dopamine and create that same addictive pattern we see in gambling. The typical low chance of receiving an item you want creates a cycle of purchases chasing after that big reward. Considering the young age of many video game players, this should be alarming information. For example, in Counter-Strike, you can open a case for $2.35, and after an animation that's scarily similar to a slot machine, you have a certain chance to get a skin that's more valuable than that price you paid. The odds to actually gain a profit, though, are below 1%. Now, if we take a look at the statistics, more than 30 million cases have been unboxed in the last month alone, amounting to $70 million. Small purchases like that can really add up over time, and the often use of in-game currencies makes it even harder to realize that loss of money. You're not seeing the dollars leaving your hand, it's just numbers on a screen. While in most games, items don't have an actual value, skins in Counter-Strike can be traded and sold for real-life money. With a market cap of $4.5 billion, there's an entire economy behind the game's skins, and one of the rarest ones was recently sold for more than $1 million. Now, because of that, actual casinos and match betting sites have evolved that use these skins to enable unregulated gambling. With a few clicks, you can play games like roulette, dice, crash, mines, towers, and even slot machines. Now, you might think that we're talking about a niche here, but are we? In April of 2023, the most popular gambling site registered 28 million visits. For the same period of time, those Counter-Strike gambling sites have reached 47 million visits. These sites are promoted everywhere. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, or even in esports, you will eventually come across them. Of course, most of these websites don't have actual licenses, and they use loopholes, as an owner of one of the most popular sites explained in an interview.
Specifically, Clash itself is not considered a casino. You're not considered an online gambling platform. We're technically a sweepstakes site, which allows us to operate within the US.
To get a better understanding of how these sites work, I interviewed a fellow addicted gambler who is hooked to Counter-Strike gambling right now. Here's what I asked him. So how did you come across gambling and match betting? How did you start?
So I first got into gambling through gaming. It all started with Counter-Strike gambling sites where you could get free bonuses which you could use to bet on games or colors. I was also influenced by watching a lot of streams and by my friends who were into it as well. I had a friend group which was gambling a lot that days, and it sort of made me fall into the same boat as them. I believe that the people who are around you make a very big impact on your decisions and actions you take.
How easy is it to access these sites as a minor?
I feel like it's pretty easy for minors to access these sites. Many of them don't even have strict age verification processes, so you can just sign up and start gambling without much trouble. When I started gambling, I was around 13 years old, and it all started with Counter-Strike betting sites which didn't have almost any restrictions. There were rules that you have to be 18, obviously, but it meant nothing because all you needed was a Steam account and didn't have to show proof that you are 18. Nowadays, I believe it's more difficult because most of the sites ask you to provide your ID card or passport. However, I still feel like it's pretty easy because not all of the sites does it.
What was the financial impact of your gambling?
Gambling has definitely made a significant financial impact on me because I spend a lot of money on these sites, often even more than I could afford. And it became a habit that drained my savings and put me under anxiety and stress. I feel like when you are gambling, you lose the value of money and don't actually realize how much you could buy for the amount you have spent. I was losing after losing, and it just led me to deposit more and more, which eventually emptied all my savings.
Did these sites convert you to actual casinos?
These sites eventually led me to try out actual casinos because at the start I was more focused on the Counter-Strike betting sites. However, at the time they didn't have many options. They only had an option to bet on esports, on games. But later I got introduced to online casinos through advertisements where you could also play slots and other games. I feel like it only made my willingness to gamble even stronger. And the transition felt natural since I was already familiar with gambling through the games, and I feel like the actual casinos nowadays doesn't differ much from the Counter-Strike ones.
How do you think Counter-Strike and other video games portray gambling and gambling addiction? Do you think there's a problem there?
In my opinion, gambling is portrayed in almost every game we play. I believe that there is a problem because there are many tournaments that are getting hosted in these games which even are promoting gambling sites on their streams, and it only encourages people to gamble and bet on the matches more. I feel like the amount of gambling portrayed in video games will just become higher, and the only way to stop it from happening is just stop gambling, and everyone needs to understand that gambling isn't a way to get rich, and the earlier you stop, the better.
As you heard here today, there are many aspects of video games that blur the line between gaming and gambling. If you feel like you're struggling personally, or maybe you even just realized that some of the games you were playing were actually gambling, my account is always here to help. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and check out this video that I made about how I quit gambling. It's going to be useful for you regardless of what type of gambling you are doing, because it's all the same thing happening in the brain. Thank you for watching, and let's keep getting better together, one day at a time.